Welcome to the Dynasty Podcast. This is take two for us. We tried to do this last night, but had some technical difficulties, and we're off and running. Fuck this shit. Okay. Ben and I were having a discussion about the Discord chat and the tanking and nonsense that is, well, some people think it's nonsense, some people don't. So I got to be careful with my words here. Having a conversation with the beefy Brad. Ben, I'm going to read you a few things in the Discord that I want you to respond to. First of all, I'll preface this by saying the rules are there. I posted them in the Discord because I wanted everybody to read them. I think we all need to get better at reading comprehension. Okay. The rules on tanking are in there. The rules on indifference are in there. The rules on vetoes are in there. The rules on dumping. Collusion's mentioned in there. There's examples of these things. Okay. The biggest point of contention that we have right now, from what I'm reading, is people think the last veto trade was lopsided. And my response to that is, then use your veto. Well, I don't know if I want to win, if I'm going to win the veto. Well, that's a strategic decision that you have to make, not none of our concern. The second rule of contention is that the last trade was tanking, defined by the rules. Okay, here is the rule that I'm going to read to you. All right, and then I'll give my opinion on it, and you can give yours. Here is the rule. Oh, sorry, I had it. You are expected to make every reasonable effort to set your best roster possible every week of competition, even if you are out of the running for prizes. Okay, so in Brad's mind, and maybe perhaps some other people's, that means that you're not allowed to make moves that benefit your team if it's not going to give you the best roster that upcoming week. That's how Brad is trying to convert that rule. In my opinion, that rule is basically stated that says the players that you have to field the best lineup with them. It doesn't say that you can't make trades to improve your lineup or improve your roster for the long term or short term or however you want to do it. What are your thoughts on that as far as why that rule is in there and what it means to you?
So there's two rules. Okay, there's two rules that matter. First rule is that for playoff seeding and for draft pick seeding, the possible points are taken. Sorry, not playoff seeding. For draft pick, for who picks, it's possible points. Now that was created to make sure you're not trying to, not play your best players. Okay, but the rule that you're talking about, that one's specifically to basically make sure people are setting lineups that are the best lineup that their current roster can create. It has nothing to do with how the quality of the roster is. It has nothing to do with the quality of the players. It has to do with, did you start the best players with the intention of putting your best players forward in your current matchup? Now, because of the two rules, you would never not do that unless you're trying to give somebody a win. That's why that rule's there, because possible points, it won't matter for your seeding. But if you just shut your computer off for 3 days and you have a bunch of bench guys that suddenly should be starting for you, and two guys get an automatic win because you're not setting your best lineup on your roster, that is really unfair to the league.
That also falls into the category of an indifference, then, what you said. If someone hasn't been following because they're out of the running and they haven't set their lineup for 3 weeks, and somebody else is getting free wins because they have free agents in the starting lineups when DJ Shark is playing and available, then that to me is where that rule comes into play as well, right? Like they're either tanking or they're indifferent. It's one of the two, and there's rules in place for both of those situations, correct?
Yes, and some might say that rule's in place for people like the CR Mafia, where if they think that we're in cahoots together, and we, I'm not going to set my best players against you, Corey, because I think you have a better chance of making the playoffs. That's nonsense, because I hate all of your success versus mine, and that's what we do, and that's why we love each other. But that being said, I think what people need to look at is what the intent of the rule is, which is just like, I don't think Beefy bringing this up is a problem or bad. I think it's okay to clarify these things, but I don't One thing I just want to be super clear on, and I think, this is the biggest point that's being missed. Like, how are we supposed to improve teams in general if there's no waiver wire, right? And if you didn't draft well, or you didn't get lucky in free agency, and if you get injured, like, what are your options? Well, I have an injured guy who isn't going to play till next year, who has value next year. Should I be allowed to trade that person so I can stay in the running? I mean, isn't Mando in this position? Like, he's trade future assets, maybe
he just traded Kareem Hunt for a fucking safety, thinking Kareem Hunt was going to be fucking out for the rest of his career. And now Michigan has Kareem Hunt. So should we be saying, oh, he just tanked there. I don't know. That was a bad GM. That's a bad GM move. It's vetoable. Like, no, he made it.
It doesn't matter if there's value on either side this year or next year. Nobody should be talking about the dumping or whatever we want to talk about. If there's a conversation on how you want to fix tanking, and this is why I'm really getting at the end of my rope of it, is there isn't a solution. You guys are welcome to make a committee. You're welcome to do whatever you want. But unless you're going to be Adolf Hitler, Nazi fucking controlling my moves, my decisions, my destiny, how I want to build my team in the future, what I'm allowed to trade for. Can I trade for somebody who's on the IR? Can't do that because that affects this year. That is the opposite of what you would do in Dynasty. What league are you telling somebody that somebody's future value is zero? What league do you say, well, you drafted a guy in the 4th round and 3 weeks after his rookie career, he has zero value, hence this is a dumping situation. I don't understand why we can even entertain this type of logic. I don't understand why because that's an opinion, man. Or
the reason why someone plays in these leagues. Why someone, what they base their success off of. Georgia was telling people last night in the chat that, no, this isn't about winning money. That strategy is stupid. If everybody's here to win money, then that's the wrong reason to be in this league and to be doing it. It's here for fun and to be competitive and blah, blah, blah. It's bad for the league if people are here just to make money. Bullshit, dude. I'm here to collect banners and be the best fantasy football player in the world. And I believe this league gives me the opportunity to do so. Nobody gets the right to tell me how to run my team, how to strategically collect banners, and to try to put money in my pocket while being a competitive, classy GM, unless I'm fucking doing something outside the rules. And the rules are clearly stated, and you don't get to interpret them however the fuck you want based off of your personal situation. Like, there's rules in place for everything that we have. Like, I've been one of the most vocal people about when things are getting fucked up. I'm a rule believer. Now, I'm also a believer that Roman's been in these leagues for 10 years. He understands how to use the rules, how to strategically do this, how to use his relationships in the leagues, how to position himself for either a short or long-term run. And that's his fucking advantage. He's been doing it for a long time. I welcome everybody's opinion. But the bottom line is, don't confuse your opinion based off of your situation with what's factual inside the rules. The rules are clearly stated. You're not gonna get me off that point. And you cannot tell people that the decisions that they're making as a GM are strategically wrong based off of your opinion.
You certainly can. You can veto it, and if the league agrees with you, they will overturn it. We have vetoed and overturned things. It doesn't happen that often because people are a little colder on it because of the exact conversation we're having. Everyone can defend general value. There's vetoing for when you think a trade is suspect. I only was talking about dumping. Like, can we say that there was zero value received? People are saying yes, but that's just not true.
It's not a trade that I like. It's not a trade. I probably don't like it.
I would trade Cam Smith for Nelson Aguilar in 5 seconds. He can have any cornerback off my roster who's better than him, who is starting place. You want Lattimore? You want any of my guys? I would have traded. But should Vito have maybe like floated it out there? I would have given more, but who cares? Fact of the matter is, it didn't happen. He made a deal. He likes a guy he can stick on his taxi squad who might end up scoring points or being better. It doesn't go to his points against, and it's an asset that was taken in the 4th round.
Just maybe there was also the side of, I might lose some points in this, and that's okay too. Like, he's strategically made a decision that he can say, I justified a 2nd round draft pick basically for a wide receiver that I can't really, it's not going to help me win. Maybe long term, the cornerback will help me in my strategy. Now, I think it's lopsided? It's probably a trade that I wish was that I had coming to me. That's all I can say, right? But at the end of the day, now I know. You also have to develop relationships. You have to be active. You have to send things out there. That's part of being a GM too. You got to pick up the fucking phone and call people and try to negotiate shit and see what sticks. That's part of it. There's a lot of active people out there. So I think at the end of the day, someone show me in the rules that I posted in the Discord what either Argo has done wrong or what Dan has done wrong. And don't infer your opinion in there. Just show me the rule. There isn't anything that they've done wrong so far. I will watch that shit like a hawk. I don't want Roman to get a competitive advantage. Okay. He's also been in this league for 10 years and never won it. He's tried several different strategies. So
he's also seen strategies. The only thing that you could say that historical, I don't think the rules is so much that he's using it in his advantage. I think you learn that after, 2 years probably. So like they're going through their rookie year and it's just like, what the hell? And then you go, okay, that's how it is. And this has been going on from the beginning, and like, okay, so tanking was a problem, but again, like when we made the minimum salary cap floor, that was like a huge step in the big direction. I know everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. It's just like if you accumulate the cap and have to have the cap, like that should take care of, do you have enough players, right? It doesn't matter if they're good or bad, but like, like before that problem was you're tanking in July, not fielding a roster, and everyone's getting a win. Now, I would argue, like in a division where everyone is playing the same person and then another division is playing most of that guy, isn't it better to know that that's a free win for everyone versus a free win for half when they dump their entire team halfway through the year? And you're like, but that's the way it works, right? Are we complaining about that? Like, I'm going to go play somebody who jumped half their team and get a nice easy win later in the season when I need to get in the playoffs, or we're going to go butcher that guy because he's trading up, he can't make the playoffs and he's trading for his future. Like, where do we draw these lines? Like, I don't
it's impossible. And we're going to get into the divisions and kind of what the toughest divisions are based off of possible points and points so far after week 3. It's actually was somewhat surprising to me. So I think that'll be interesting to see. Like, for example, Argo and Vito are the only 2 owners that have scored less than 400 points. But in one of those divisions, Argo's division, every other manager, or 5 of the 8 managers have scored almost 600 points. So, and in some divisions, there's 4 or 5 teams that have only scored 450 points. So it's like it balances out, and it's not. I mean, you can't fix it any better than we've tried to do that, and we'll get into that later. Anyway, let's move on. We're not talking about the fucking tanking issue anymore. We're not talking about any of it in the pod unless there's actually a clear violation of the rules.
Yeah, if there's a violation of rules, I'm totally okay for it. If somebody wants, again, you want to start a group, a podcast, a channel, and talk about how you think you can change this where we don't do it, and then like, oh wait, somebody figured out how to get around it later. Or more importantly, it's like, George was like, I don't want to be on the orphan getting committee. What do you think you're going to do when you start telling managers what they can and can't do with their rosters when they're in no man's land? I'm almost in no man's land, so I can't. What happens if like 3 weeks from now, I'm 1-5? It's like, well, Ben, don't you sell your assets for picks.
There's nobody worse in a worse situation than Georgia right now, who's delusional to think that he has a top 12 team when in all reality he's probably 16 to 17. He's not going to get any better. I mean, like with the team. I mean, I don't want to get into it. I've just learned in my short time, like, you can't be at the top or in the middle. You can't be. You either have to be trying to win or trying to build to win. And like, I just don't think
it's okay to be fringe for the playoffs, but the second you are out of contention, if the trade deadline hasn't happened, that's when trades need to happen. They don't always happen. A lot of times they happen earlier because people look at their team and they're realistic. I just lost my 3 best players. I need to get value now, because guess what? Here's all that matters. The number of people in contention to getting into money. And I know we don't want to talk about money, but everyone's trying to get in the playoffs so you can like break even, make some money, even if you don't think you're a championship team. Every week that goes by, the amount of people who believe that they are in that category starts to dwindle, which means your trade partners start to dwindle, which means desperation is slowly going away. And so, again, I will say this, like, who are we to tell somebody when they are allowed to trade their assets?
Correct.
If this trade happens in week 7 for some team who's finally just decided they're out of contention, are we still talking about it in the same way?
Now, the only thing that I would say in that situation is as you get closer, we have to monitor a little bit about what is collusion versus, someone protecting.
But we always have. Somebody would call collusion.
That's what I'm
We've been
saying.
called
Like,
out for
okay,
collusion when there never was collusion. So, like, trust me, there's plenty of people bringing the collusion stuff up there. And, like, I don't know, I've looked at stuff during that and just been like, I need to really analyze this.
I guess
and
that's
it's always going to come down to my opinion. And, like, if we can prove there's collusion, that thing's going to get reversed. If we prove but it's like most of the time it's a bad trade. If it's collusion because it's dumping, right? Yeah. So they're kind of going hand in hand.
But I guess that the last question we're going to ask, and then we have to move on. Does it matter if that trade happened in week 12 and it involves someone trying to make the playoffs, like Brad is right now, right? Like he's a 2-1 record. Like this, it does impact him this week. So I understand where it's sensitive to him because he's like, someone else just got a free player that I'm playing against, right? Does that matter then if it's a week 12 and a playoff game, a playoff spot is on the line, right? Does that change the rules? Or does that just, you have to look at it objectively and say, it doesn't, there's nothing here that is. Now, I think Brad would use his veto in that situation.
That's fine.
Right? Yeah. And then would he get the support of it or not? And I think people's opinions might change as you get closer to the playoffs as opposed to this part of the season. I don't know.
I'll tell you what I do. I'll tell you what I do know. I'm in 4 contract leagues, almost a decade in each. Okay? Or more. Every single week, somebody's done a trade to get better players against me throughout the year until the trade deadline. It's always happened. I've also gone against somebody who traded a lot of their good players away, and then to my benefit, I got a 1. This is just chance. It's random because you can't, unless.
Or it's people spiting someone else too. I mean,
so that's different. If somebody was like, I'm going to trade Georgia's partner or Georgia's opponent, all my guys. There's a rule for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you are taking something personal against another owner. So say it's like Beefy got in a fight with Vito and Vito's like, I'm trading every week I'm going to trade your competition a better player and get nothing back. That would be easy identifiable. We would see the beef happening. We would know they had it personal and we'd be like, this looks suspect. So these rules are in place for real foul play. What we're talking about is just something people don't like.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
The last thing I'll say, again, for the third time, is El Sarpe, we'll call it. We welcome everybody's opinions. We're not here to be the
100%.
It's like
nobody's wrong.
Roman was out of line for saying that. Sometimes Roman, even with us as friends,
it's also French, so it doesn't always translate what he's trying to say. It
comes across a little bit more harsh than he means it to be. We have
try looking at our chat.
It's awful. We hate each other in that chat.
So good.
But it's great. So Missouri, we love having you on board. I understand the sentiment. Brad.
Yes, absolutely.
Brad, we love having you on board too. I think both of you have been such a great addition to the league.
You're active. A lot of people aren't active. We really don't want to we don't want to prevent people from being active, asking questions, fighting for what they think is right. We will we'll just do what we're doing right now. We're going to say some of this has been addressed. There are some rules in place. If you think it needs to go further, I would just say always think about what the consequences of rule changes are, because we've gotten screwed by changing too many rules.
I've been a critic of Dan, and I think he's done a much better job since the off season or whatever. And so I'm objective in most of these things. I supported Georgia in a lot of different ways in the off season, and
support each other when
I just look at it. Each situation as it comes to me, in my opinion, and that's the best I can do. And we have a channel to be able to discuss it a bit more than everybody else. That's all. So,
and people are welcome on to discuss it.
Yeah, well, except for Georgia.
Not Georgia. Georgia hates it.
So, on to something a little bit more soft. I think we need to back up off of the intensity a little bit. Is Taylor Swift hot? That's my question to you, Ben.
Okay. Well, she's bigger than Islam, so I don't know.
So are you saying that
She's
because she's
something.
a pop star, she's
Was Michael Jackson hot?
well, I don't get all the I don't know what Travis Kelce's doing, man. I mean, I guess I know what he's doing. I just personally, I mean,
Travis Kelce can get a 10.5 on the 10 scale 100% of 100 times, right? Like it's
I don't know.
like
Yeah.
that guy's got no problem. You see his past girls, dude, they're like, yeah, 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 yeah. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
dude, it's just a publicity stunt. They've like screwed around, talks, oh, it's just a game, man. Are they going to
Yeah.
get married and have a great life? Dude, Kelsey ain't going to settle down. What are you talking about? Look at his track record. It's like, well, and to the point, like
I just don't even think she'd be a good hang. I really don't. I've dated girls that were kind of the this is not a selfless plug, like the supermodel types, and she's not even a supermodel.
but
Let's
she's
get
not a
that.
supermodel.
She's not even close, but she's just the long and ganky and blah blah blah. Like I bet she's just awkward to hang out with a nerdy and quirky. I don't know. It's just I'm
To
not
be fair, Corey,
hold on. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan from a attractive level, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not. I'm just like I don't get the hype there. So she's literally like she would be a
an
three in
icon.
Sweden. She would be a 3 in Sweden, like you said, right? Like I wouldn't even look
A lot
twice.
of people would be a 3 in Sweden. I'd be a 3 in Sweden. I guarantee that.
Well, I don't know if you'd rank in Sweden.
Oh, unranked. Fair.
Yeah, but the other aspect of it is why would you want all that chaos in your life? And then that the third aspect of it is does it change when someone has a lot of money and also a lot of fame and you want a piece of that? I guess I don't know. It's baffling to me.
He's
Probably
got a
good.
podcast that's super popular, man. Like they made it a thing and now he's doing it and his jersey sales went up 400% and every talking head is talking about Taylor Swift. I want to fucking puke. I don't want that bitch in my fucking life in football. But guess what? She's forced her way into my life and I hate her even more than I did before for it. And you know what? Swifties are a cult
I have no hate for it.
and we might get killed just for saying anything bad about her. That's how psycho they are.
Yeah, please don't push this out to the Swifties on the internet. I'm just saying, I'm just baffled.
Come at me, Swifties. I'm in Tamarindo, Costa Rica. I got no fear.
Yeah, that's true. We'll talk about that here in another segment. All right, so the vote on Taylor Swift being attractive is still up to debate. I guess it depends on the person. Ben does not believe she has any talent and hates her music. I think she's genuinely had a pretty good career and as kind of I can get into a few of her songs. I'm not gonna lie, but man, I would not want any of that.
Can I say one last thing, Corey?
Absolutely.
She does have either she gives 0 blowjobs or she gives that trailer park trailer hitch suck the chrome off blowjob. So I don't know. Let's see how big his grin is when he gets that podcast going next time.
I don't want to get too Pornhub-ish.
It's not Pornhub-ish.
I will say from
counts in a relationship, I'll tell you that.
My experiences in life, any girl over 5'10" that looks like a gangly type is not what I would be after for the long term.
All right.
All right, moving on. The Deion effect. This was supposed to be last week. First of all, I want to apologize to everyone for not making it to the pod last week. Ben's a really great friend. I went through a little debaucherous trip to LA and I just couldn't get my shit together. And it's now driven me to be a better person. And Ben is a great friend for walking me off the ledge while I was there. Here's the bottom line. Corey can't go out by himself. It's just not good for anybody.
Most of us can't, to be fair.
It's it's just not good for anybody. And then you end up, in the fetal position in a hotel room for 12 hours the next day and debating life and all of its obstacles and greatness. Anyway, thanks, Ben, for being a good friend as always. I'm on to bigger and better things. The Deion effect. What is your opinion? And let's keep this in a 5-minute segment because I know we both have a lot to say about Deion Sanders and the effect that he is having on college football and college athletes at this point in time?
So he's like super unapologetic, which makes him, polarizing, right? Like people are going to have their opinion one way or the other. I feel like I'm in the middle, but for the most part, but I actually, understand what he's trying to do. I think I like the fact that if you're going to go take over a program and you got to put it on its head, like 1 in 13, and everyone you walk into a locker room and they all think they're badasses. Like, what are you going to do with that team? And so the fact that you just like transfer portal, I'll help you guys. Let's get it out of here. I want my own guys. I want culture. I want accountability. I want people who want to be men. I want when I suspend somebody for being late or for not getting grades, I want to be able to do that without them, pretending like they're better than me at football. Like, you know what I mean? So culture wise, it's like, we'll see if he maintains that discipline and those stories come out that his, like, if he has a crazy graduate rate or his grades are like what, I don't think people pay enough attention to that, but that's his talk. His talk is building men, building culture, building accountability, like giving them, everyone who's going to play for him isn't going to the NFL outside of a handful, and they need to have gained something in life for that. And I respect the hell out of that if he really means it. I think what's interesting about how it might evolve the way things are is, him and his son already have some like KFC ads, and like ads became legal, and I think companies got away from it because, the number one quarterback came out, he got signed to a big deal, and then he sucked to Clemson. Now he's playing for Oregon State or something. So I think this is actually going to be what people are going to gravitate more to. And does that make coaches in college get louder, put their personality on the table, like get a little more, because that'll get their players, if they're in the light and they're controversial and their best player is getting deals, that's going to make people go to schools specifically. As if he's in Colorado, it'll probably influence a little bit, but like, man, if he gets to one of those big schools, you're winning some real close recruitment battles with that type of leverage.
Yep, I agree. My takes are, I think, I think he's really important for Black athletes. I really do. I think, and it can go either way. And I believe that strongly as well. Deion's always been a flashy person. He's always been a very vocal, kind of in your face with his Blackness. I mean, you remember the Atlanta Falcon days, like him high stepping in the end zone. That shit was never seen before Deion Sanders, and he made it okay for Black athletes to express themselves and to flash chains. And
dude, it's him and Allen Iverson.
Right.
It's him and Allen Iverson that just said, like, dude, we get to be us.
This is who we are.
Fuck everyone else.
So I think
it's good.
That's going to be a very, very important dialogue from here on out. There's going to be a lot of people, especially if he was in the SEC, that are going to be fucking hoping this guy, and I'm not going to say that. I mean, he hangs himself, like literally, like that's the most racist thing you could say, that he hangs himself by the way he acts, right? Like, and I don't mean it in a racist way. I'm just.
I know what you mean.
I think they're rooting for him to fail because they don't want all that Blackness and all that boisterous attitude in their faces, and they want to humble him and humble his players. But the truth is, Black athletes want to play for Deion because they relate to Deion. I'll tell you a story. I think my son, who's a white athlete in California, would want to play with Deion.
Hey, he's Latino. Give him a break.
He's half Latino. But I think, I mean, even as a kid growing up, I would have maybe wanted to play for Deion, right? Like, because he's exciting. Yeah. I think it's the old man on his couch chair drinking his Budweiser. Well, probably not Budweiser anymore. Drinking his whiskey or something. I don't know what old man on the couches drink these days. That's rooting against him because I don't know. They either have some racist tendencies or they just believe that Black people should stay in their place. Okay, and I think that's a lot of what's going on now. Number two, I hope, for goodness sake, that he has accountability to the young men he's teaching these things. Because if you're going to be loud and boisterous and feel yourself when you're doing good, what's going to happen when things don't go so well?
We
Is he
already
going to
just
hold them?
saw it. We just
Well,
saw it. Everyone's telling him he's a failure. It's fucking
right.
It's insane.
I'm talking about him and how he responds to that with his athletes. What happens if they win four games? Is he going to bail on them? Is he going to let the accountability to them and their program go to the wayside? Is he going to care about their grades? Is he going to in 3 years bail on his contract and go somewhere else and forget about the cycle that he's, the 4-year cycle that he's created at Colorado? I'm just interested in what he's going to do long term as his success does this, right? We know that he's not anybody that's watched college football enough or knows anything knows that Colorado was not going to beat Oregon. Like that was not happening. But I'm very interested to see what he does in those situations, and if he backs up his preaching with actions. And I think that's where it becomes even more important for Black athletes that he's recruiting and bringing in. The third thing that you mentioned was the NIL deals. Absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. He's going to be able to go out and get 5 to 7 super, star top 10 college athletes and pay them more than they probably could even make in the first couple of years of the NFL, because he's Deion Sanders and he has access to State Farm and all these different KFC channels, and he can bring them along for the ride and he can put them in the spotlight. And how those kids respond to that and how he teaches them through that process will be interesting. And then the fourth thing that I would say is, boy, man, this is going to get real interesting if he has some success and goes to a place like Miami or Florida State, or a program where he can tap into the pool of athletes that are top caliber. So it's just a fascinating, sociological, societal, sports situation going on. I was glad to see that they got humbled a little bit personally. I thought that they were getting a little too big for their britches, and that's something that I tell my son all the time when they're beating up on shit teams and they're going to go into a place and play someone that's a little bit, eventually you walk into a place and someone's always badder than you are, right? And I think, we'll see how those kids handle that and come back next week against USC and how they handle it as their season gets to be a little bit more 500-ish or below.
Yeah,
so.
they're not talented enough to hang with the big boys, and they have enough heart to squeak in a win. They might get into a nice bowl game and upset somebody because they know they have to get up for it, and then but in the end, talent is what works in college.
Yeah.
You can't lie, then there's the rest of the stuff matters when it's close, but I don't think they're that close yet. I think I agree with you. I think they were probably a 4 to 5 win team that'll probably overperform to 6 or 7 wins.
Let's put it this way. I don't believe he's had any success yet. I think he's on the path towards it, and his success will be defined after 2 or 3 years, and how he holds his players accountable, and the win-loss record, and what his next step is, and how he handles that. That's personally.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be in the place that they're in right now if they didn't go out and win that first week.
I'm sure the Colorado brass that hired him is very, very happy with their return on investment to date.
It's already paid off.
Yeah, exactly. All right, switching gears here. A question from the Discord. We had Mike Sorgan, Mr. Penn State himself, ask a question about our history and why Ben how Ben ended up in Costa Rica, and whether or not he would ever live somewhere else. And then I'm also going to share a little bit about my story. So go ahead, Ben.
I took a year off of college and never went back. That was a short version I tell tourists, so I don't have to get too far into it. The long story is my best friend's uncle had a house here in Tamarindo, so we decided to come to Costa Rica for that year I was going to take off to travel. I was switching colleges, switching majors, etc. So then, I came down and I didn't have enough money for a year because, living is expensive, more expensive than you think when you get here, especially if you're trying to have a good time or whatever. So I ended up opening a business shortly. Let's see, I came here in July. I opened the doors of my business November 1st. So I think I took the space in October 1st. Anyway, so I found something that I thought was needed here. I was going to go back to college to study business at UC Santa Barbara, and I ran a business for 2.5 years. It was super successful as a tour agency, tourist information center, and then
Pre-internet, basically.
yeah, pre-internet, so it was super needed. And everyone was just holding clipboards on the beach at that point. I had an air conditioned office. It was a
And you were a
smash
gringo,
spot.
so you could help people too.
Yeah, so I sold, it was 2.5 years. I sold that, and then it was like okay, is it time to go back to college for business? In retrospect, I was probably a little arrogant that I didn't need any more education in business because I had done a business, but that's not really how it works. If you want to excel at something at a high level in variety, the more education you can get, the better. I learned that when I had some business partners that were super high level later. But to the point, I had multiple opportunities to go back to the US, and I had opportunity here to continue doing different businesses. So it always kept me here. If I were to liquidate and sell everything, would I leave? I don't know if I would just to leave. Would I consider leaving? Sure. I always consider leaving. Would I live in the States? I don't think that's up for debate. I think I'd have to, I think we were talking about it. I think I need to go to Montana or somewhere there's just like not enough people to piss me off and hear other people's bullshit. That's one thing about being down here is people's bullshit is very uniform. You have third world problems and everyone has them, and then all the other stuff. I mean, you can hear it in the noise in the background, but I just feel like every time I go to the States, well, I go to California mostly, so it's just like everyone's on the verge of a mental breakdown over something, and it's just like, Jesus, do you ever enjoy your life? Like, why would I ever trade this for anything else? Do you know what I do? I wake up, I take my kid down the street to school. I'm in my office right now. I can look at the beach from here. I can go to it's like, man, like would I? Yeah, sure. You got to beat what I got though, and even, in this situation.
You build a nice life for yourself. For those of you that don't know all the details, I will summarize this. Ben is essentially the mayor of Tamarindo, if not a bigger position at this point than that. He's one of the most prominent figures. Not even in maybe Tamarindo, but throughout Guanacaste. He has been there since he was 18 years old. He has
21.
owned and operated
21.
many businesses. Oh, I'm sorry, 21, and operated businesses at a very successful level. He's impacted the community. He is looked at very much so as a leader in his community. I mean, he's built an amazing life for himself that, I think anybody that goes outside of the box a little bit would envy. Now, I would also say that Tamarindo in general isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of things that go along with living in Costa Rica that are challenging, and Ben has also faced some of that adversity and overcome it. And so I think that kind of ties into my story a little bit. I went down to Costa Rica when I was 26. I had been successful in corporate America and was kind of starting to get a little bit curious about other things in life and wanted to experience other things in life. I planned on staying for a couple weeks in Tamarindo. I actually only booked a hotel for 2 days. It was downpouring rain and never really even got out of my little cabina for the first week. And then first time I went out, I met my son's mother. Basically, that led me to conceiving my son Haven, and my whole life changing. And from that point forward, it was kind of a comedy of errors that what kept me going in Tamarindo. Obviously, I wasn't going to leave my son, but I became a single dad shortly after my son turned 2 and had to kind of figure out how to make a living down there and get through life and kind of all the things that I was struggling with as an individual, and kind of overcome some obstacles, and was, even homeless for a good stretch of time, living off $5 a day, having to rely on the good people of Tamarindo, which surprisingly enough does happen. If people want to take care of you, they will.
How about you some rum and cokes?
Yeah, a lot of people buying me some drinks. I don't know if that was good, but I definitely needed it at times. And there was people that, I have story upon story of people that, let me into their home and helped me keep continually improving over the 10 years I spent there. Made a lot of mistakes, grew up a lot. But eventually my son's mother quit using me as a target for her anger and hate, and knew that I was a good dad. And she actually married someone and had 2 other kids. And so by the time my son was 10, I had kind of reached the end of my road there. I was ready for something different, and I knew I was kind of not accomplishing the things that I was capable of accomplishing. And I just said, I'm leaving with him. And she signed off on me taking him back to the States. And I've never looked back. Now, that being said, I think everybody would agree that they enjoyed having me when I was there, even though it was wild and crazy, but they're super proud of me for, the choices I've made since then. And someday I'll write a book about it. And I hope everybody on this pod holds me accountable to that, because I'm an excellent writer. I believe I'm capable of writing a really, really fantastic book. And B, I think it's an important story to tell. And I think it would be pretty cool. So my goal is to write that book by the end of 2025. And I probably should even make a shorter timeline for that, but that's it. So maybe we could do a whole pod on this someday and ask other questions from the Discord. But it's tons of amazing memories and stories. Someday I'll go back and buy the house next to Ben and retire and go drink my rum and cokes off into the sunset. So.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like a reason to do like a live YouTube video or something, right? Like we just go live and have people from the Discord come in and ask us questions, and fun.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
If anyone cares.
onto the meat of what we're here for. That's what, 40 minutes in, and we haven't talked about any BC or NFL stuff. Just but I love that. I love that we're doing that a little bit. It's nice to make connections and talk in general. So recapping week 2 and 3 in the NFL and BC. So I picked a few games and just kind of surprising scenarios from the last week in the NFL, and I just want to get some of your opinions. Cowboys and Cards is kind of my first topic. What were your thoughts on that game? And obviously it's a surprise that the Cards beat the Cowboys, who looked pretty dominant going into that week. But your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything I see is like Dobbs is pretty good. I think that needs to. You kind of pointed out, I don't know, like he's a little less of a wild card than Kyler Murray, and I don't know, he runs at good times. He seems to be comfortable in there, and so like offensively, that was just where everyone's just like they're tanking. They brought this guy in, and this is a joke. They cut Colt McCoy. I said it, and they have talent, not a ton on offense, but I think this is all about Gannon. And I think Gannon, coming from the Zimmer tree, took what Zimmer was really good at, and he made it much, much better with the Eagles last year. And now you can see it. He's taking a very underwhelming talent-wise defense, and he's making them very efficient, very effective. Their scheme is good, and they give people problems. They almost beat the Giants. It shouldn't be that shocking that they beat the Cowboys. I don't know why everyone's so blown away by it. I think there's other teams I would have been more surprised on, but I get it, because people still aren't over the narrative that Arizona must be the worst team in the NFL. But I got news for you. They are not the worst team in the NFL. And they are trying to tank. If they are going to have a hard time doing so. I believe Gannon is going to be a good coach. If they can shore up, and even if Kyler Murray isn't the answer, and maybe he can find out how to manage him, if he can make them an elite defense, it kind of doesn't matter if they're middle of the road offense, like that can get you where you need to get. So I'm interested in them, and I'm probably going to throw some futures on them next year. I just think people are going to constantly count them out, and I think coaching matters sometimes, man. If a guy comes in and people are buying into what he's doing, who in that locker room's not buying into what they're doing? Like they're beating teams that when everyone said that they were basically supposed to be what the Broncos are, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. My take is new coach, new players that are fighting for their careers and that are grown-ass men. You're never going to convince me that the players on the field are going to go out there and give a half-ass effort, or a coach is going to accept that. If he's a new coach, especially, they're hired to win ball games, right? And have a plan in place. And so they're going to execute that plan. And those contracts are not guaranteed for 5 years. Like if they don't get it done in 3 or 4 years, they're fucked and they're gone. And so you're never going to convince me that a team at any level is trying to throw away the towel, right? Look at what happened in Houston when they lost that game, ended up not getting Bryce Young, and now have CJ Stroud. Okay, that's a perfect example of fucking go out and try to win ball games and see what happens, right? And build a culture that has that mindset, right? So the second aspect of that game that's interesting is the Cowboys, you can go on the road and lose to anybody. I mean, that's just the nature of the NFL. These are fucking world-class athletes that are out there trying to take your head off. And if you don't come to play and you're overlooking a team, you're going to get beat. I don't know if the Diggs thing, was kind of a morale killer in a way that put them, down in their dumps and felt like they had a great loss, or they just couldn't score in the red zone. It's, it's a combination of factors. And I think also they're maybe struggling a little bit with, some new players. Is Dak really better than a top 16 quarterback in the league at this point? I don't know. Do they have like a Zeke Elliott that can pound the rock at times and get them extra yards? Do they have a true number 2 wide receiver? These are all questions that the Cowboys are going to have to figure out. Now, it just looked like to me that Arizona was just pounding the football down their throats. So kind of alleviating a little bit of the Micah Parsons effect. And then they were, we're winning and making big plays. And Josh Dobbs looks like he's tough. Every time he's running the ball, I'm like, Jesus, who's that big ass running back? He looks like Daryl Boston out there freaking, running the football. Like, I don't know. Right. So very interesting. It's very early in the season too. And I think that kind of takes me to the next couple teams that we'll talk about or situations. The Dolphins explosion. Pretty fun to watch. What were your thoughts on the Dolphins and Broncos game, and the fact that the Dolphins put up 70 points and were running all over the field like the 1990, 99 Rams, the greatest show on turf?
Well, I think Broncos fans need to go get those ski passes a little early this year. I think you need to be as far away from anything NFL oriented as possible, because you're just going to be reminded that you gave up how much you gave up for Russell Wilson and how much you gave up to have Sean Payton, and neither are doing their job. And it doesn't seem like they are able to do what they think they can do. And I will see. Sean Payton, he's a great coach, I guess. There's guys in that locker room who are deflated, defeated, and don't sound like they want to play football anymore. So that's what happens when you get beat by 70 or 70. Somebody hangs 70 on you. But Miami, I think Mike McDaniel's offense is now what we really thought he was going to be able to do out of coming from Kyle Shanahan. Right? The whole idea, we're like, oh, Kyle Shanahan, he's going to run the ball. He's going to get this thing and get this balance, going to figure out how to get people in space. I just see them doing a lot of stuff that he does well, which is just what coverage are you going to run against us? What are your schemes? Okay, cool. You're going to run this 2 high safety set. I'm just going to I have the fastest men in the NFL. I'm going to go across the middle, short slants, and I'm going to make my guys make plays. I'm going to run certain zone schemes that are going to get my running backs in space so they can make plays. And I think what he has developed this is why I think San Francisco and Miami are doing so well right now, is because the defenses have shifted, not against those types of teams. They shifted to explosive big plays, down the field passing, get the safeties, two high safeties, bring more DBs, stuff like that. And I think there's real exposure points to roster construction across the NFL right now. And I think both those teams, if they were in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised. I think they have the personnel to exploit what the weaker personnel choices are now basically happening. The Fangio, even though they have Fangio. So that's the other crazy thing. Fangio is basically letting them practice against the defense they're going to see on 50% of looks, right? So it's just He's telling them how to beat it too, right? That can't be underestimated. It's like, oh yeah, these guys are using my defense. This is how you beat my defense. You can't. No defense can win all the time. You have an exposure point that you cannot win all the time. You saw that with the Cowboys. They figured it out. But like, I think that combination might be a real problem. If Fangio can like help McDaniels get exposure points based off the opponent's defense, it's gonna be hard.
The funny thing is, it seems like Mike McDaniels, says, I know how they're, what the defense wants to be in. So I'm going to run a personnel choice that looks like you should be in that defense, and then he exploits you with their speed, right? Yeah. So instead of putting a fullback in, right, and having like a power eye, he's putting Tyreek Hill in as the fullback, so the defenses see, oh shit, I need to be in this alignment, and then he's motioning people this way and fucking running A-chain the other way, so he is attacking side to side with speed and then slashing you with speed, and it's fucking awesome to watch, man. It's like how I would want to play football. But he has 4 or 5 guys that are running 4-3 or 4-4. Tua looks like he's getting the ball out fast and very comfortable with what they're doing. They're not even, I saw very little pressure, because it's just like, oh, we're going to tease you with Tyreek going this way. Oh, we're going to hit the slant. They didn't even have Waddle, right? Like, just imagine if Waddle's out there with A-Chain and Mostert and Hill. And it's like, now, I think as the season goes on, there's going to be people that are going to make them dink and dunk it a little bit more down the field. And they're going to be, be able to match up a little better with those hybrid, safety linebacker combos and playing nickel, or however they're going to do it. And we'll be able to see if they can actually pound the football when they need to and get defensive stops when they need to. But the offense is explosive. It's fun to watch. And I think it's good for football. I also think that game just got to a point where it's like Denver knew they were getting their asses kicked. Miami's defense didn't really care too much anymore, and so points just started happening. It was almost like fucking the great seas parted in a lot of those big plays. And we'll see what happens when they're in Buffalo, right? Like, they're not putting up 70 on Buffalo. I bet they don't get to 42. I don't know what the over under is, but that's going to be a little bit more of a physical contest, and they're going to get worn down, and we'll see. They can score, but I don't know. We'll see. A lot of teams can score. Can they play defense, and can they run the football when it matters, and things of that nature? So
their offense looks like what we expected it to look like right when he took the job over, and we're just like, where's the running backs? Where's the running yards? This is a Shanahan thing, and look at what he just put up. Like, Mostert and what did they run for 400 yards? I think they ran for 400 yards.
7 touchdowns between the two. Would you rather have Mostert or Saquon Barkley rest of season?
Wow. How is that even close? I think it is.
Very close.
Well, I would say maybe Barkley. I don't know. Like, are they going
to? Neither one of them can stay healthy, right? So.
Well, I don't know.
There's a risk.
At least Barkley has the rest of his running back room is ass.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So he's getting 90% of the snaps.
So what if you traded Saquon Barkley for Raheem Mostert and Jeffrey Wilson?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, man. Jeffrey Wilson comes back off the IR. Where do these snaps go? Archan, does he I don't know. Does he keep playing?
I don't think you can take him out of the line. But then you have Ahmed too, who was actually looking pretty explosive in that lineup.
That could be an old school 49ers nightmare where you're just trying to pick. There's 4 guys, they're all good. And you don't know which one's going to get the 100 yards. You remember those days?
Oh,
pre McCaffrey.
Would you trade if Achane was on a taxi squad, would you give up 2 firsts to get him right now in BC?
No, but I saw somebody did, and I don't think it's horrible. But I think
that was in a 16-team league. But
I know. I saw that, and so I wouldn't BC probably.
I think I wouldn't be.
Yeah, because BC is, well, you're going to know what those picks are, but if you're like 20s and 21 and 25 for that guy, it's like, yeah, ship it.
I think it's a Gabe Davis type number too.
He's got Gabe Davis value, son.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, that's I like that segment. That was pretty good. The last one we'll talk about, having a good time today, Ben. I'm glad we're doing it in the morning. We should maybe try to do this in the morning more often. Texas and Jaguars. What I wanted to start off by saying here was CJ Stroud looks pretty fucking good. Surprising, I wasn't high on him. I wasn't high on really any of the quarterbacks in the class, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm not surprised that a couple of them are struggling and he looks good. But and then the Jaguars, just in general, like surprised that they were a playoff team. Took Kansas City to the brink last year, and I thought they made improvements with get Ridley back, and they just haven't looked good this year. And Houston beating them was definitely a surprise. Tank Dell's look good. I think that's a steal. I think Vito has Tank Dell, so talk about not taking. He can't get rid of those 40 points. So yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts on the Texans and Jaguars. Interesting to see. But all I would say before you go, Ben, is I think we all have to relax. Even a Bears fan in our fan base, like it's still very, very early. Right. There's a lot of football to be played, I think, because of the preseason being shortened and a lot of people not playing in the preseason. A lot of teams are still trying to figure out. They have new schemes. They're trying to get new players involved. They have new offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators. I think you can't really tell a whole hell of a lot after 3 weeks, except for the elite teams and the real shitty teams. So there's going to be a lot of teams in that, 8 and 9 kind of range. 10 and 8 or whatever the number value is, 10 and 7. And it's going to get real interesting down the stretch as to who makes it in the playoffs.
Sounds like BC. Yeah. So, I guess my thoughts are, my Lord and Savior quarterback in the BC league, who formed the artist formerly known as Touchdown Jesus, that is now known as Field Goal Jesus. I'm hoping you're right, and he goes back to Touchdown Jesus, because holy hell, their red zone efficiency is as bad as I've seen in a 3-game stretch. I've watched all 3 of those games, and they cannot put the ball in the end zone when they get down there. And I think that's the hardest part of football, is scoring in the red zone. It makes it sound like that's the most obvious, easy thing, but like players say, like the red zone is where everything gets harder on offense, right? So hopefully that's just some rust. Hopefully they can kick that to the curb. If they can't, then the Jaguars are going to have a hard time, I think, maintaining their momentum that they did last year. And then that division comes really wide open,
Would you rather have Tank Dell and a 2nd round pick or Devontae Smith?
You just made this trade. Why do you keep asking me your trades?
No, that was in a redraft league. Like, I traded away Tank Dell.
Would I rather have a 2nd round pick and Tank Dell or Devontae?
No.
Smith?
Okay. How about this? A late 1st and Tank Dell or Devontae Smith?
Devontae Smith.
Okay. I think so too. I think Tank Dell's probably going to come back to reality pretty quickly. But
yeah,
we'll see.
If you want to talk about pump the brakes, Corey, after week 3, take it easy with that noise.
All right. Would you rather have Tank Dell or Puka Nacua? Give me Dell. Give me Dell in that one.
Pretty close. They're both the wide receiver too. So,
would you rather have Quentin Johnson or Tank Dell?
Well, I don't know. Mike Williams is hurt. He's supposed to be. I'm not a Williams believer. You are, so you tell me.
No, I'm not a Williams believer. I'm a Quentin Johnson.
Or Quentin Johnson, excuse me. Quentin Johnson.
I'm a sucker for really large 6'3" athletic receivers, or 6'2", whatever he is. But yeah, I don't know. Who is the Bears wide receiver that they draft? Or Kevin White. Yeah, that sometimes doesn't work out, right? So We'll see. I think that's an interesting one though. Quentin Johnson or Tank Dell.
Still, it's too early. I mean, Quentin Johnson's going to get put on display the next 3 months pretty heavily.
Would you rather have Marvin Mims or Jackson Smith and Jigba?
Well, Jackson Smith and Jigba long term, you still have to take. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like stats don't matter with that pedigree. That pedigree is just superior. And like, you know, you put Addison in there. He hasn't done that much. I wouldn't take any of these guys over
I think Mims tested as high as anybody in the combines though, as far as from an athletic profile.
Does he have potential to be as good as those guys? Of course he does, but I just don't. You know, look where he's at.
I would take JSM. I would take JSM. Yeah. In his situation.
Maybe not this year, but like, are you trying to win this year? I don't know. Like even Mims, he's only getting like 20% snaps and like getting over 100 yards every game. I don't know. His volume's not good, but he's super productive.
Well, but JSM hasn't played hardly at all either.
No,
I mean, his snaps.
No, but the rookies, dude. You got to be pretty damn good. Like I think Addison should be playing more based off of tape. I think Mims should be playing more based off of tape. I don't think JSM he's got to play. We got to see those flashes of like, that's the dude. And he is that guy. I think he is that guy. So we'll see it eventually.
All right. Moving on to a little bit of BC talk, some kind of along the same theme, some surprise BC outcomes or storylines. The first one I have is John Candy competing. If you look at, I don't know if we have the scores from last week, but old JC gave Penn State a run for his money. I thought that was interesting. Just when you think that teams are not going to be competitive, right? Like you can get beat, just like the Cowboys found out. 239 to 209. So John Candy put up 209 points. Based off of a 30-point performance at quarterback, 31 from Adam Thielen, 20 from a defensive man that I've never heard of, Alzier, 13, 15 from cornerback, Kyron Williams had 10, so kind of a light performance from him. So getting points from some players that maybe were a little unexpected. You want
me to bring up the share screen here for you? We go over this?
Yeah, we can do that. I would maybe bring it up to, our scores from last week. And then, Penn had his kind of normal 230 point output. I think he's averaging somewhere around there. Didn't have a dominating performance. But I just think in general, it's like, it's kind of surprising that JC gave him a run for the money. I think that game actually going into the last couple games on Monday night could have gotten a lot closer.
Putting up 200 points is not easy in this league. I know the people who have great rosters want to think it is now, but they've struggled to do so previously. So, which matchup would you like me to go to? You want me to go to that the John Candy one?
No, I mean I just was giving John Candy a little credit
Appreciate
for giving a competitive output.
Corey, did that 3% efficiency difference, was that the difference in the matchup?
No, but we'll talk about that a little bit later with some other lineups that someone could be 2-1 instead of 1-2 if they were a little bit more efficient.
Okay, that's spicy.
Yeah.
No flowers for me. Me against our boy Bauer. We had a grudge match.
Oh, we can talk about that. You want to go to that one a little bit?
I don't really want to go to my matchup, but we can. Look at this. There you go, Corey. How am I doing with my 98%? Look at that, Bauer, 97.2. 5% more, Bauer. You might have done it. 0.5. Excuse me. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I think that's a tough loss for Bauer, to be honest with someone that could have gone 2-1 instead of 1-2. You were 0-2. I think you have no grandiose ideas of making a super strong push into the postseason, but you're not.
Says you. I'm averaging 200 points a game, man. Anything can happen.
Absolutely.
And my best players have been hurt.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad I got you. I'm glad I got you week one. Right. I think here's my thing, and I've said this many times about Jason. I think Jason needs to get more active and start, taking some more shots. He's kind of been just kind of riding the gravy train since he inherited that team, and I think it's time for him
Trades?
to. Huh?
You think you should
I haven't.
trade more?
I think he needs to, yeah, get a little bit more aggressive. Start kind of. He's been in these leagues a couple years now. I think it's time for him to start kind of, making this team his own. But we'll see. We'll see what he does. Tough loss for him. I mean, anything can happen in our division, as I'll show you. It's very competitive, as are a couple of the divisions. So, interesting matchup between two good friends. The other one I wanted to talk to, actually just talk about was Mandy's injuries. I wanted to do that week too, but we've talked a lot about, kind of the stud and dud concept and what can happen and how you can your outcome can be based off of injuries, obviously, in this league. He lost Barkley for a few weeks, and then obviously the Hunt deal was a real heartbreaker for him. But he's not putting up 300 points now per week. And he's still got a very strong team, still got a win last week, but kind of just an interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, Mando, I think, was most of our prohibitive favorite. And yeah, I don't know. He's still got, a lot of beef. I mean, if Barkley and Jacobs get their stuff together, it's all kind of good, right? But he's thin at wide receiver. But man, he's got
very thin at wide receiver.
Dude, but he can go to 3-for-1 with most of his assets and probably improve his team overall if he has to.
Go up a little bit. So here's where we're at, right? Go up. So that's his whole roster, though. That's not who he started. Can you go to who he started that last game?
Yeah, it was just started right here.
Oh yeah. So White got him a 0. Andrews is kind of underperforming, as most tight ends are, except for Laporta. 0 from Reddick, which is again surprising.
He has beasts who are underperforming. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like
I mean, it's just the 70-point combo between the quarterback and wide receiver is going to win you most weeks if you have any sort of. And then you got Jefferson. I mean,
dude, he's still one of the favorites to win. I don't care.
He's extremely top heavy at this point, though. Extremely. Look at the offense versus the defense.
You keep saying this like everyone isn't. It's real.
Well, I'm just saying.
It's real comedy to me. Everyone's top heavy. I don't care if you have some depth. I'm
talking his offense versus his defense, not best players versus worst players. I'm saying his defense scored 18 points.
Ooh, Jaron Reed on the bench, 24. Oh, wrong guy. Oh, see, look at that. He benched Javon Holland with 22 points.
No, he still won 90%.
Really no depth here. Really no depth.
No, I mean, he just didn't get any production from his.
Okay, Mandy, I'm not entertaining this. I think you're fine, and you're going to be a contender.
He is absolutely still a contender. Just saying that, losing.
Who's next on your list, Corey?
All right. Sorry, that was a bad segment. Apparently, Sin City barely hanging on. So I thought Kyle's team was a little bit stronger than what it was, or at least the start that he's had so far. I don't know what his overall record is. Look at that, 76.3% efficiency. But he got beat again. I think he's 1-2. Not getting hardly anything from Najee. Jerry Judy's been disappointing. Waddle being hurt.
No, Kyle Pitts.
Oh, did he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that efficiency though. Potential points 221.
Yeah, if you want to talk about efficiency, one and done. I know we'll probably go through it. And it's ridiculous. Like, yeah, Anderson chosen. Why didn't he play him? Jaron Reed got 24 out of nowhere. Sometimes this just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I hear you. But Sin City, Kyle Pitts. I mean, Kyle Pitts' value has continued to tank, and he would not trade him for less than 2 firsts during the offseason. So I'm thinking that he has to have a little bit of regret there.
I don't think so. I mean, no, he's still worth it.
He's still worth 2 firsts?
Yep. Second year, bro, tight end. Most tight ends haven't even wiped their fucking ass off the bench, dude. Come on. And there's talk about him even getting traded to like Dallas. Like, okay, that's going to be, I think, just like Everyone relax.
I'm taking 2 firsts for Kyle Pitts all day long right now. And I'm drafting.
You also
I'm
traded 2 pairs first for Gabe Davis. So, here we
And
are.
how many points does Gabe Davis have this season? And what is he ranked at wide receiver so far on the year? Do you have that? Can you bring that by points up by wide receiver? I'm just curious. I don't even know.
I know you have it because you're a.
No, I don't. I'm just,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
asking for a friend at $12.
I'm asking for a friend. Is Amon-Ra and Stevenson any good?
I would think that.
Oh, that's who was taken with.
I would think. I'm
beating a dead horse here, Corey.
I'm going to guess that Gabe Davis has either more points than both of them.
So you'd rather have Gabe Davis than Kyle Pitts?
100%.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. He couldn't trade me Kyle Pitts for Gabe Davis right now. I have a tight end that's out. No way. No chance. No chance in hell. No chance in hell.
Well, we are going to agree to disagree on that one, my friend.
Not happening. No, not this year, not next year.
I want to hear all of BC's takes on that. Am I really out of line?
Go into how many points go into my team.
I don't want to go to anything, Corey. I want to know what the league thinks.
But why is that irrational to you? I don't understand. What has Kyle Pitts done over the course of 2 seasons and 3 games that would give you any indication that he's? I mean, obviously he's had bad.
I'd say the same for Gabe Davis, bro.
What has he done? He scored 170 points every year so far. He scored 170 points.
He scores 50 in 2 games and then sucks the rest of the year. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know, man. I mean, that's fine. Agree to disagree. I'm completely fine with my Gabe Davis at this point.
That's fine. We have a Discord chat. I want to hear everyone's opinion on this. Would you rather take Gabe Davis? Would you rather take Kyle Pitts? And then let them do the talking. I don't want to talk about it because you obviously are way high on Gabe Davis and I'm much higher on
I'm just curious as to where he's ranked on the season so far as wide receiver.
Why does the season matter? This is a dynasty league, bro.
Well, dynasty-wise, he's had over 160 points per year since he joined the league as a rookie. So I wouldn't say that that's bad production. He's not Amon-Ra St. Brown. I get that.
In a position easy to fill.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. We'll see how he does the rest of the year versus Kyle Pitts, and then we'll look at
the rest of the year. Or is it dynasty?
They came into the league at the same time.
You said you wouldn't trade him for Gabe Davis. It's a dynasty league.
I'm completely fine with Gabe Davis as a long-term asset and a short-term asset. Completely. And more. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I would prefer him over Kyle Pitts. I would not trade Gabe Davis for Kyle Pitts. Bring on the heat.
That's
moving on. All right. Want to give a little bit of shine towards Georgia. He is 2-1. I still think his team is hot trash. He's gotten a lot of production out of some places where I think he thought he was gonna, and he's hit the gold mine with Jerome Ford. So
where's my boy Georgia at?
It's hard to discredit that, right? Jerome Ford scored 20, came out of nowhere there. Elijah Mitchell got a few points. Braxton Berrios has been pretty much what Georgia said he was going to be. Josh Reynolds came back to reality, but has been good. Sutton looks like a steal now, and Wilson looks good too. So good job by Georgia. He's getting some points off of his defense as well. Now here's a couple things. I think it's absolutely disrespectful for someone to say, "Oh, thanks for taking Jamal Williams off my hands," and giving me Cortland Sutton, like he knew that Jamal Williams was going to get injured and be on the IR. I think that's just fucking. I mean, he's gotten pretty good karma thus far as the deal he's made. But Cortland Sutton has looked good. And he's getting points where I didn't think he would actually get them. So good by Georgia. A little credit now. The sad part of it is Georgia has only the 19th most points in the league out of 32 teams. And he's playing in the weakest conference. So we'll see what happens when he goes outside of his conference and plays some teams that are a little bit more stacked, we'll say. I don't think he's broken 200 points. So again, I think he's performing a little bit better than I thought he would, but still in the middle of the pack as far as what his team.
Do you think he would have been as mad about the trade if Vito made it last week?
I don't.
Meaning he just played Vito, but now he stopped playing Vito, and then there's a trade, and then that's probably, I don't know.
You want my honest to God opinion on Georgia? I think that Georgia likes to argue, and I think that he likes to I think he likes drama,
He's
and
a
I think
walking contradiction,
he's very much
or a sitting one.
a wordsmith that no matter what you say to him, he's going to find a way to retort it. Him and Dan would be a very funny argument because I think Georgia thinks he's a lawyer and Dan actually is one. So I think that would be a kind of a very good battle royale.
I love you, Georgia.
Yeah,
League
I mean,
league wouldn't be this league without you. Don't take all this stuff personal.
I like Georgia a lot too. I just find it to be exhausting. I can't continue to have the same circular debates all the time about things that don't matter. But keep on keeping on, Georgia. I think times are going to get a little bit tougher for you, but we'll see. You got some production, you got some people shining that deserve a little bit of shine. So good for you. All right, moving on. The top 10 teams as of right now. So I picked any team that was 3-0 and any team that had over 650 points that was 2-1. And so those teams, as of right now, are Hot Mess with 723 points. We have Moose with second amount of points scored, 717, but a 2-1 record. I was able to defeat Moose in week 2, luckily, before he had a point explosion from his wide receivers. 7-10 by me, which is a 3-0 team. Penn State, where is he at? 685, a 3-0 team. Dominion, 669, I believe, a 3-0 team. Bad Boys, 657, a 3-0 team. Mandy at 718. Sorry, he was higher ranked at 3-0. We talked about his injuries and how that might affect him. And then we have BBB at 626, Hometown Heroes at 632, and Baltimore BD at 657. So, and those are all 2-1 teams. So I think it's, I don't know if there's any super big surprises. I would have to say Big Beefy Brad is probably being led by Mike Evans as maybe the biggest surprise out of there. Although I thought that he was close to being a top 12 team. And he's all in. He chose to go the route of competing this year as opposed to setting himself up for the future. So he's going to have some tough decisions on whether or not he's going to trade off some of those expensive assets and try to get draft capital or long-term players, or if he's going to try to go all in his first year and make the playoffs. So any thoughts on those teams, overall surprises in the first 3 weeks as far as who's competitive and who's not?
I don't think there's a ton of surprises. I did just notice that I think I'm leading the league in points against. That's sad. Sad clown face. Oh, Cocaine Bear might have it over me. Nope, I got it. I'm not a lot of surprises. I mean, I think the top teams that we thought were going to be top teams are top teams. I think if we have our top 5 is top 5 still, Yeah. So there's some stuff that, you start looking at some points against. Hey, Georgia, 424. Is that the lowest? Does Georgia have the lowest points against?
Second or third lowest.
No. It's the lowest. He has the lowest points against. Confirmed. Yeah. So I look at that stuff sometimes because you go, okay, points for, points against. Points against can mean you're getting some cheap wins if that's low, and points for means, maybe you had some tough breaks. I don't know if I had tough breaks, but I certainly probably would say I overperformed first 3 weeks compared to what I thought my roster would do, and then just, played you and played Moose. Like, what are you going to do? So
just pointing out that John Candy has scored more points after 3 weeks than Georgia, and Georgia has talked all offseason about how shitty John Candy's team was. Just throwing
tanking
that out there.
John Candy. Okay, and he is clearly putting his best foot forward, and I think this is probably what everyone wishes everyone would do, which is still field the best team and try and score points. But I think Candy just hold
on though for a second, Ben. I think the difference is John Candy's been in this situation for 2, if not 3 years. Okay. This is
Well, he's been rebuilding since last year.
right.
So that's why.
Right. So he's getting incrementally better. And this is kind of where I was last year. Like I was kind of trying to see how many wins I could get with the team I had. I was still kind of dipping my toes in it, but then I was strategically trying to,
Vito and Argo are trying to hit rock bottom now. So that's true. That's fair.
It's a different time log as far as where they're at in their process. So, and he's still 0-3, right? So, I mean, you can still be trying to win and still be bad at the same time, right? Like, but I don't think he can hold it against people. Vito had no choice. Like, if you look at his team, he was all in, had zero money in money to invest in the auction. He was star heavy, and he was trying to win last year. And then he's ass out on his ass. Like I don't think it's going to take him 3 years. If you look at Vito's team, he has some really good assets. He's not fucking trading those assets and trying to get 10 draft picks like Argo. It's a different strategy, but he has Tank Dell. He has Laporta. He has another running back, I think. Like he has 3 or 4 really, really good assets that I think he's going to probably be able to build off of. So anyway, I don't want to get into it.
Good news, gents. There's still 6 lottery spots available, and it's a race.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, there's a lock of 2 lottery spots by people who haven't scored 400 points. That's Argo and that's Vito.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone else we're going to possible points and everything. Like there's 10 teams kind of around the bottom, and we'll see what happens. It's like, I don't think, even if some of these rebuilding teams wish they would be scoring less points, we'll see what happens.
Go up to let's do our winner of each division, starting with the first one after 3 weeks. Who do you think is going to win the division out of the SEC?
This one's probably the hardest for me, man. I think Hot Mess. I mean, I think I think he's got the best team. Yeah.
He hasn't even had Cooper Kupp planned.
That's the thing. He's going to get Cooper Kupp back. The fact that he's put up this many points and maintained this well without him, he's tight cap wise. I don't know. That doesn't matter so much. Yeah. See what happens with Madison. He started looking better.
Keenan Allen's
in there. Yeah, well, he got a lot of points from Keenan Allen against my dumpster fire of a team. It's interesting. So
you're going with Hot Mess?
I don't know, man. I kind of like the Dominion's team too, man.
Who is the Dominion? I'm not. Oh, Kenny G. Okay, Kenny's in a couple of our leagues.
But he's to your point. He's top heavy, you know. He's like a Mando light. So I'll go Hot Mess. I like Hot Mess. And no offense, Beefy. I just want to see a little more consistency on the point scoring. I think he's got real potential with his players.
Okay. Well,
stay up. Just got Brandon Cooks. See what happens.
Just bring up the division real quick, Ben. I'll just do my little talk about it while we're in the division. Just try to screenshot that. There you go. So a couple of interesting points out of this. They have a total of 4,692 points with an average of 586.5 points per team. Okay.
The division average?
The division average is 585.5 on the season after 3 games. All right. You could break that down into, divide by 3 real quick if you want.
I need a flow chart for this one. Keep going though.
585 equals, hold on. I should have done this. That's a good thing.
Come on now. How long are we going to make this thing?
It's 195.5 points per week per team. Possible points is 624 total. Equals 624 divided by 3 is about 208. Okay. That leads all divisions by 10 points on average. Okay. Mm-hmm. They have no teams under 450 points. No teams under 450 points. If you look at other divisions, Big 12 doesn't have anybody under 450 points. The MAC has 1-2 under 450 points, and the Ivy has one team under 450 points. Okay, so I would have to say at this point, after 3 weeks, that they're the best division in the league, based off of total points and the fact that it's pretty competitive all the way through, right? Like there's not any real super weak teams so far. Now, another interesting point is Wildcats has 497 total points with a possible 717 and a 69% efficiency rating.
That's tough.
A lot of that's due to A-Chain.
This is actually where your point is finally coming to fruition, Corey. I'm going to give you your flowers and let's get into it. Let's go. Efficiency.
Okay. So if you look at it though, A-Chain played in week 2 and had a productive week. He didn't play him in week 2. He started DJ Dallas over A-Chain in week 3. Now explain to me why you would start DJ Dallas over Devon A-Chain regardless in week 3. Devon A-Chain was playing in week 2, did not have Jeffrey Wilson or Ahmed to compete with, right? But DJ Dallas has Charbonnet and Walker to compete with.
Charbonnet was hurt.
Oh, okay, so that's the decision.
That's 100% wrong.
Okay, so that's
do you want and like the matchup? Who did Philly play? Or sorry, who did Seattle play? I can't remember right now.
Detroit, right? No.
Yes. Yeah.
No.
So the feeling by Vegas as well was that was going to be a shootout game, very high score. So it's like, yeah, that they use 2 running backs pretty equal. I think it's a coin flip. I don't think it's that bad.
I don't know. I'm starting my young rookie. In explosive offense against Denver.
It's easy to say after a team ran for 400 yards.
But A-Chain got touches the week before, right?
He got touches, but DJ Dallas was going to get catches and touches. Like he's going to be a pass back. They're going to be in a shootout. Lots of like hurry up. I don't think it's I don't think it's bad.
Now, if you go back,
easy to look at. It's excusable to me.
Okay, so if you go back to his week 2. Bark's week 2 score, if you can do that. I think his score though against freshly or who did he play?
Oh wait, sorry, it just takes me to everything. Who are we looking for?
We're looking for Wildcats week 2.
Wildcats week 2. He played Vito.
Okay. So how many points did he get? He would have won. He would have won that matchup. So the only matchup, I'll just make this short. The only matchup he would have won, I think, let me look at the week 3 score. The only matchup he would have won had he made better start decisions, I believe, is week 3. I think he could have won week 3 if he would have started the right players.
Okay, so he's one loss based off of efficiency.
So he could be 2-1 versus 1-2. No, he still lost by 100 points. So he won even in week 3. Okay. So that's not a week 1. He lost by 20 points. Okay. But if we looked at week 1's score, so I'm actually not going to give myself credit here because his decisions really haven't mattered yet.
Hey, that's so sad.
Well, no, they haven't mattered as far as the decisions he made were not egregious, like because you don't know. Like he didn't start someone like, okay, yes, he could have won if he would have started a cornerback over a 15-point quarterback over a 3-point quarterback, and he made another decision, like after the fact. But he started the right guys based off of what you would expect. So here's the bottom line, though. He's got 300 points in a gap between possible points and total points. And I think, as the season progresses, he's got to narrow that gap if he wants to be competitive, because I think he has a pretty decent team. So anyway, he'd still be 1-2. I was wrong. I don't think he'd be 2-1. So
efficiency.
Hey, we're still going to track it. We're still going to see. I think
it'll have relevance at some point. I never said it wouldn't have any relevance, but I said I didn't love it as a measuring stick. That was all.
All right, let's look at the Big 12 real quick. Or I think the next one in line is Ivy, actually. The division standings.
I'm getting there.
All right. So who do you think is going to win this division?
Georgia. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Ah, Penn. I thought he was Penn is, and I'm sticking with Penn. I'm not going to deviate. I think it looks like way more secure that Penn's going to win this division at this point.
All right, so this is by far the weakest division, just by the numbers. They're averaging a total of after 3 games, 524.5 points equals. Their average is 174 versus 195 in the best division. They have one team that has scored over 600 points, and that's Penn State. The rest of them are kind of middle of the road, if that. 555, 514 obviously is 19th in points scored. That's Georgia's team. So, and then they have Vito, who's a free win, kind of, but not really. As far as how the league is balanced. So I think the Ivy League, as of right now, is the worst team or worst division in BC. And I would also pick Penn State to win this division, and I don't think it's close.
I think also, though, one thing that should be noted is if Penn sustained like a lot of injuries, this would be a very open division.
True. I don't think
there's a lot of teams kind of in the middle range, but there's only one elite team, in my opinion. I mean, maybe Highlandtown has a better team.
Highlandtown is definitely the I mean, it's the division is
I'm just looking at points for, possible points.
There's 2 teams in that division that have a chance to make noise. The rest of it is just noise. I don't think there's anybody else in that division that's going to make a run at anything.
I'll record and say there is a scenario where Georgia can win his division.
Yeah, start scoring a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's bleak, but so is mine. I would say he has a better chance of winning this division than I do of winning our division.
1,000%.
Is our division next? Do we get to see how?
Yeah, we can look at the Big 12. So our division is the second toughest division as far as points scored. We are averaging 191 versus the SEC's 195 points. We actually have more possible points than the SEC, which isn't surprising to me. I think that if Mandy hadn't had his injuries, we would be obviously scoring more. Mandy put up almost 300 points in the first division, and then backed up off of that by about 60 points in week 2 and 3. So a very competitive top to bottom division, very similar to the SEC. 2 teams over 700 points. Moose is in the other division. Hometown Heroes is a good solid team. You have a solid team. Mighty One's a solid. I think Sin has underperformed so far. So I don't think there's definitely not a free win at all in the Big 12. And so yeah, I think it's probably, in my opinion, the toughest division still, but SEC actually has a higher points per game average. So yeah, that's all I got to say there. I would pick I'm still gonna pick Mandy to win it. I think
you're just being modest. You believe you're gonna win it.
We play in week 5. I think it'll be interesting. I can't be disappointed with my start. I beat 2 really good teams and a third in you, and I'm 3-0 in the division. And so you're off to a good start there. I have what perceives to be a relatively easy matchup this week against Michigan. So we'll see. I mean, I'm happy where I'm at, but I think Mandy just has so much firepower that can come from his offense. And if he gets Barkley back and Barkley performs as well as he can, that gives him even more. So we'll see. It's a long season. So your thoughts on our division and who the front runner is?
Well, if you had Kyle Pitts instead of Gabe Davis, I might pick you, but I don't think I can at this point. So
I have Freiermuth and Smith, who have
I'm kidding.
And I think Jonnu Smith has scored more points than Pitts at this point, who's on his fucking team. So I have all three of those guys. So no, I don't think that plays. But go ahead.
So I'm not going to pick you then. You're going to be feisty.
That's fine.
Mando's going to take it to the rack.
All right. Well, I think we have a potential to get at least we're going to get 2 out of the Big 12 in and possibly a wild card so far. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I would say big beefy Brad has also a chance at the wild card. Obviously, I'm not surprised that he's competing. I think he had a pretty sound strategy from his auction.
I think this division can field 3 teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fleece City has kind of underperformed this year too. Anyway,
yeah,
we're digressing. Okay, let's bring up the MAC.
It's up.
All right. Yeah, I guess I'm going with Moose to win this division. I think there's 3 really good teams, and I think Lazy Bears and Freshly Squeezed are actually strong, good teams. I think this is a pretty top heavy. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that are solid and scoring points, and then you have 3 teams that you need a lot of work. So I would prefer to be in this division because I know I'm going to get, but we play this division outside of our division from the Big 12. So
we do?
Yeah. So
I may have hope left.
Yeah. So we get the 3 Cocaine Bears, Michigan Wolverines, and Argo on the schedule, which aren't walks in the park necessarily, except for Argo. But then you have to play the top 4 guys that are bangers. I mean,
all top 5. Yeah, I don't know. This division's pretty rough too. Everyone looks good. I don't know. It's early, but teams that aren't winning record look good, and then I don't know. I think we need some time to really shake this out. I'm gonna still stick with Moose based off of the power of his offense and his points that I've seen him put up. I got to get it firsthand.
Yep.
And I think he's the favorite here, but man, Bad Boys he's got the 3-0. So if he can keep riding high. Bring
up there, just to clarify, they have 186 points per game average, 186 points, which is 3rd. Bring up Bad Boys team. I'm pretty familiar with Moose's team, but I just want to make sure that I'm not. So Connor, Gibson, Collins has performed well. Michael Thomas is still healthy, which is good. Hawkinson is the second number 1 tight end, I think, in football. So I'll say I'm going to stick to it as well. I think Brad has more explosion on his team, and there's still some question marks, I think, out of Bad Boys team. But yeah, those guys are performers. Yeah, he's got a strong team. Don't get me wrong. I think he's obviously a playoff team, and it's going to be a tough out whenever you face him, as long as he stays healthy, like everybody else.
He's got good depth on defense, so he's just going to always put up points on defense. So even if he's fielding a 0 here and there with some injuries, I think he can sustain it versus certain teams. But I agree. I think Moose
his offense is not deep at all. I think this gets more interesting as we get into bye weeks and people having to scramble a little bit more, obviously.
That's when you hope you get those free wins.
Yep. So yeah, I'm gonna take Moose to win that division as well. So we'll continue to do this every 3 games. We'll look back and we'll see how we did as far as our predictions.
I like Baltimore's team for the record too. I think they got a real grudge match up the top there.
Yeah, I think that's one of our games of the week this week is Baltimore versus Man.
Should we get to that?
No, we're going to do Keep It Snappy as our last segment. And then before we do that, I do want to say that I acknowledge that someone wanted to hear I think it was Hometown wanted to hear the state of the NFL passing league. We're going to skip that today. But I will prepare something for that next week. We did the division kind of overcast this week and took the Costa Rica question first. So we will do that next week and just kind of give a little bit of analysis from our perspective on the state of the passing league, NFL passing league. And then Ben, go ahead and take it away on your keep it snappy. I'm going to shut up for a change for 10, 15 minutes. And the only thing I will say is, motherfucker, we're on a heater as far as the games I'm picking from your IDP bets. I haven't taken all of them, but man, I think I'm like 13 for 17 on the bets that I have taken from your list. I can't wait to see the lock of the week or a lock of Sunday and then a lock
Thursday.
for Monday.
We'll get a lock
Okay.
Thursday. I'll get one.
I think we need Big Beefy Brad to keep track record on how our lock of the weeks do from your IDP segment.
Yeah, he's all over them. I made a really good video on the process that I was going through to do this that now it just feels so not interesting to do because it's last Thursday's game. And then getting a video up on like once these lines come out, it's like late Friday night. So it's either that or Saturday. I don't know if I can get videos in, but I will try and get a video for Thursday so I can show you guys what I'm looking at. I'm not just picking them out of my ass. Yes.
Are you comfortable? Because I don't really have any input to give there. I have to go plunge my toilet because our house cleaners are here and my kid threw a diaper in a toilet and flushed it. And
nice.
It's like, take me 2 minutes. I'll be right back. You can start with your keep it snappy and just speak to the audience because that's who you're really doing this segment for. Is that okay with you, or do you want me to wait?
No, you go ahead, but I'm gonna do some other stuff because I have something I want to walk you through, which was the bulk of it. But I'll kill some time. Get out of here.
No. Screw it. We're gonna do it. We're just gonna keep at it. I'll take care of my domestic issues later. You're too good of a friend for me to lead this conversation, and it's valuable information.
All right. As long as you're not going to get in trouble over it, that's fine with me.
I will not. I'm good.
Okay, cool.
I gave the wife everything I had last night, so I'm in good standing. So we're good.
So it's funny. When we move this to Tuesday, which is now Wednesday during the day, the only motivation for Keep It Snappy for me to do this on, say, Thursday is doing a lot of this stuff on the waiver before the waiver wires go through on all 4 of our elite competitive leagues is kind of giving away what I'm looking at to get guys and information. So I'm going to veer away from that. If we do end up doing it past waiver, I don't mind talking about this stuff, but I think if I do another pod about betting, that I'll go through a lot of this stuff. So starts and sits kind of make more sense, or pickups, but there's a bunch of guys injured. You should take a look. There's a lot of weird situations of guys who are going to come in. There's some stuff that happened that was very strange. I'll point out specifically, like Camu Grugier-Hill was supposed to be like the guy that was replacing Shaq Thompson, but then it was Deion Jones, but now Luvu's out. So now I guess they're both playing. So there's a lot of weird stuff. There's a lot of defensive injuries, like flat out. There's a lot of defensive injuries. So even like kind of making some assumptions on snaps this season, this kind of round could be a little deceiving. But I would just say there's a lot of studs that got hurt with big volumes. And they're going to have some guys. If you got a guy like Isaiah McDuffie, you're going to want to get ready to fire that guy up. He's going to replace Devonta Campbell.
Georgia guy. That's a Georgia Warhouse guy.
There you go. Jeremy Chin. This will actually be a preview for betting. Jeremy Chin's been on the unders for the Carolina Panthers with like low snap counts, but Xavier Woods is hurt. So now he might actually jump back into this big box role to kind of what he used to do. So I'm not going to say he's the lock of the week yet, but if he's coming out at 4.5 tackles, we need to smash that over because he's going to be back in that role where he was really good. So I thought that kind of stuck out at me. So I'm like thinking if we're going to, talk about snap counts and what we're expecting later, I would say McDuffie over tackles is going to be a pretty frisky one, and Jeremy Chin over. It looks like Brian Branch also is a secured starter. He played 100% snaps for the first time, and he looks really like a must start style. It doesn't look like he's going to ever let go of this job. So Brian Branch, I think, is another one we'll have to look at because he doesn't have quite the historical production, although he produced very well with minimal snaps. So we'll have to see. Again, 4.5. If we're getting that, if you get it early, just go hit it. It's a good over. So that's actually what I found was super interesting about this week is high volume starters who are injured with very talented up and coming players that are going to replace them. And that's, I think, not only what you're going to want to look in if you need some spot starts, but it's also what we're going to look at when we're looking at these IDP bets, right? Because I don't think there's going to be assumption that X players replacing X volume, even though these guys are good enough to do so. So
yeah, just looking at my site here, tackles and assists are not out for the Thursday night football game, but every other line is.
yeah, exactly. Tackles and assists usually aren't coming until Wednesday evening, and then Friday evening they get out the rest of the games a little earlier. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said, maybe if I got time Thursday morning, I'll make a quick video, like super quick, 30 minutes. And
Hey, good job so far. Kind of fun watching it. It makes the games even more exciting. I like watching it. I mean, now I'm just rooting for so many more different things. Watching the IDP guys, it's really fun to be a part of. So great job by you.
So okay, so this is the final of the segment that I actually really wanted you here for, which is I took a look at some advanced statistics on DBs, specifically to see who is in these tackle opportunities, and when we want to look at stuff like that, it's snap count is number one in general, right? A DB's got to have 100%, 95, maybe 90 for the most part. But I always historically have really focused on box snaps. That's how much they're playing by the line. That's when they're going to get more tackles. That's when they're going to be more involved, better chances to get those interceptions, sacks. But the one that is really interesting that I've noticed is blitz rates. And blitz rates for any team that blitzes their defensive backs usually never gets over 5%. It's like you blitz a DB a play or two a game, right? You don't blitz DBs very regularly, but we're seeing something that's actually going against that narrative. It used to be some guys would do that, and those would be the flat obvious guys that are getting tons of points. Right now we have 12 guys who are getting over 5%, but it's actually really interesting when you get to the 5 guys that are getting over 10%. I mean, 10% blitz rate, meaning you're on the line in the box going after the quarterback, right? So I'll just buzz through the 7 that get over 5%, and that's Alante Taylor, which is an interesting name. He might be available in some spots. That's for New Orleans. He's at 5.1%. Cameron Curl, he's at 5.9. Ryan Neal is at 6.3. Kyle Duggar is at 6.3. Kenny
He's
Moore,
a safety.
Yeah, safeties. Kenny Moore, who's a cornerback, is at 6.9. That's like super high for a cornerback. And then you got Grant Delpit, who is at 8.9%. Okay, at safety as well. And that's a guy I like taking. I was taking his overs on tackles. He plays a ton in the box. There's an interesting name that doesn't qualify for the snap percentages, but we need to probably pay attention. I think he's owned everywhere at this point based off of points. I didn't take him based off of snap count, but Christian Ezine, who plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I watched him wreak havoc on the Vikings game, and then every game he's in on plays, and you see him a lot. So it's like, okay, well, what's his snap count? He's only getting about 50% snaps. So I go, that's not really sustainable. That's a hard start, right? But he has a 23% blitz rate. So even if you have, that's just an astronomical number for a cornerback to be going in there. He plays slot corner, right? So he's basically he's 89.7% in the box. He's basically a linebacker playing a cornerback position at 50%. If that guy gets to a higher snap count, like if he's in the 75, Because look at, he's scoring tons of points. He's one of the highest scoring DBs, but he's doing it 50% snaps. That guy could be like a league winner this year. If he gets to 100% snaps and they're using him any remotely like this, he's just going to be a scoring machine for us, right? So the top, everyone who's over 10%, we got Jason Pinnock, which I was a little surprised was at 10.8% blitz rate. He plays in the box about 24%. That's like good, like he's proving to be really valuable. Like, it's not just because he's getting production. How he's being used means that production is probably going to be sustainable. So good on whoever got him or traded for him, etc. Mike Hilton is another cornerback who gets over 10%. He's 10.9% blitz rate, and he's in the box 78%. So he's actually a guy who's kind of like Christian Eisen, just not quite with the production yet. But like, if that's sustainable, Mike Hilton for Cincinnati, like, he needs to be owned. He needs to be probably started over a lot of guys that you think are better. Because if that usage continues, he's going to have these big plays, forced fumbles, sacks, a lot of these stuff that if you DBs get, like, that's when they have monster games. And he's close to the line, so he's there getting in on tackles and all that stuff. Kyle Hamilton is here. Kyle Hamilton is, I think, here to stay on his usage. He's at 14.3% blitz.
Worth a second round draft pick now?
Is he worth a second round draft pick?
Yeah, in DC.
He's going to be what everyone wanted him to be if he maintains this. He doesn't play a ton in the box, which is interesting because if he's blitzing at that rate, but he's not playing in the box a ton, it means they're kind of disguising it well enough that he's going to get home a lot, right? Because if there's a guy who's always in the box, you need to account for him, this and that, like they figure it out. But I think Kyle Hamilton's is pretty sneaky. We'll see how that like continues. But he's also playing 70% in the slot. That's what we love for any DBs, because those are the guys who get thrown to the most. That's where you get the most tackles, pass deflections. We get points for those, etc. So then the top two, which is just wild. And I guess it makes sense for me because I knew that this was going to happen, but not in this way. The top two blitz rate safety or DBs are both on the same team. Josh Metellus and Harrison Smith. Josh Metellus, 22.2% blitz rate. Harrison Smith, 24% blitz rate.
Wow.
I mean, it's like we're 50% of the time we're blitzing a safety. Like, that's so aggravating.
Well,
if you don't unless they're both blitzing at the same time. If it's like a jailbreak or whatever. Well, Metellus kind of plays like a linebacker, so it is what it is. But Harrison Smith has really underperformed, and I don't really know why. And I watch the games and he's like not around that. I don't know if that's going to.
Is it though?
What's that?
Get older?
He's older, but you can't look at usage like this, and be like, it's gonna stay mellow. Like, he's right. Like, you got to understand, like, that last game, like any other quarterback besides Herbert and maybe Mahomes is getting like 3 more sacks than he got. They got the ball so quick. He averted. He did. I watched game tape. I think that might have been the best game I've ever seen Justin Herbert play. And after I went and watched it again, I could not believe the throws he was making, like rolling to his left, like turning on a dime on the other side of the hash, like 50 yards down the field. That's just like stupid, man. Like, and so I'd be interested if next week against Carolina, you might see a lot of turnovers by this Davey. You might see some of these safeties getting home. I think you might see a lot of turnover action. They just need to get the right teams. I think the teams we've played have good offensive lines. They have good schemes. They pick up stuff, and we're bringing major pressure. I mean, you can tell if your two safeties are leading the league and they're doing like 20 20s in blitz rate, that's just an obscene amount of pressure you're bringing. And I know we're in the top end of that, but like it's coming specifically from those two safety positions. So I would continue to fire both those guys up until week 5 or 6, and then maybe assess at that point. But I think it's a matter of time before those guys start putting up really big games because they're getting sent to the quarterback so much.
Yep.
So that's my keep it snappy. That was a little DB special. Blitz
Like
rate,
it.
blitz rates and boxes and stuff we're going to look for. And I think, that'll
Do you have any data about, I've always been curious. I haven't done a good enough job of strategically finding the right cornerbacks ahead of time. For guys that are playing against, on the opposite side of, say, shutdown corners, because my philosophy is, they're going to get the ball thrown at them, right? So they're going to, if the ball's thrown at them, they're going to have to make a tackle. And, or, that side of the field that their opposite is, if they're running to the weak side or the non-shutdown corner side, those guys, I mean, like, aren't those the guys to target? And is there a way to find that information? Or you just have to know who the shutdown corners are and go target those cornerbacks?
Okay, so historically, you always take the slot corner because the slot corner is going to get picked on more often in general, but he's also way close to the line and you can get more tackles. But to your point, this is why you target rookie cornerbacks most of the time, because they are the number 2 and they will always get tested every time. And I see it with Akib Evans on us. He's a second-year guy, but they're not passing that much on Byron Murphy. Last week it didn't matter that much, but you see who gets picked on. Michael Davis is a big scoring one for San Diego. He's on that other end. And if you look at a lot of these guys, their grades are good, but it's like you have to go through the motions and never assume that a new guy in a new position that has no track record is going to be good. But most of the time they won that in camp. They won that job because they're good. And the problem is if those guys are bad, so it goes two ways, right, Corey? So for long-term investment, it's like if that guy ends up being good, he becomes a shutdown corner and now they're not throwing at him. If he continues to be bad, he loses his job and gets benched. Yeah. So if you're doing like a week-to-week streaming like thing and you want to go like, I don't have a corner, I'm going to go to the waiver wire, definitely look at that. Like, okay, this guy's starting opposite, this team has 2 good receivers that play on the outside a lot, and you can find that. I don't know if there's a way you can go look at it, but most of the time you're going to know who the number 1 corner is. The question is the number 2, is the number 1 good enough to where they put him on an island? And the other thing about that is it comes down to scheme. So if they're running a zone scheme, then it doesn't matter, right? Like if you're on a zone right side every time and they're just running plays, like that's going to have less variance. But if they play a lot of man, and that's what you would want to look for. So it's like, who's playing man coverage outside? And then who's opposite of the shutdown guy that they're just going to always first look is going to be him, right? And that takes more work, right? You got to dive in. You got to know who runs the scheme. You got to look at how often teams run man, because nobody just only runs man. There are coordinators who change scheme based off of matchup. I know our Brian Flores does that, plays more zone against certain teams than he does. So it's like, it's not as easy to identify. But yes, there is an edge there if you can get it, especially in 16 team leagues. And then if you are, decision-making in BC between a couple guys, it could be a good tiebreaker, but yeah, you got to kind of look into it. It's not, there's some articles that sometimes people put out.
I mean, there's just not a ton of, once you're committed, you're kind of committed. You can find some rough, later on in the season and more injuries that happen and people get more clock or whatever, it starts to be relevant again, but very hard to find productive players on.
The best way to find it, Corey, is find there's always offensive oriented articles being put out by almost any site that is cornerback matchups. And so
Mhm.
just look at those. Like, what wide receiver is being targeted in DFS because they're going against a guy who's over his head?
Right. Yeah.
That's the best way to do it, because like there's some defensive places that break it down here and there, but that information, you don't need a specific site, right? It's just like everyone's doing wide
No,
receiver cornerback matchups.
I get it. All right, we got to move ahead. We've been at it for 2 hours and 10 minutes. I've been happy. It's been a great pod, one of my favorites we've done. But we got to go on to the week 4 games of the week. So can you bring up the scores here? What I would like to do is to keep this segment moving forward pretty quick. Okay, all we're going to do is look at the matchups and who's playing who based off of their lineups and their scores. Okay, and then we're going to pick a winner each week. So the first one is Penn versus Big Beefy Brad.
Okay, hold on. We're not at, they haven't reset it yet, so give me a second. I'm going to get to where we're at, all reports.
Oh, see on the app they have, so that's kind of scary.
Week 4.
There you go. Please keep in mind, I think if you just click on it, can't you get the matchup? If you just click on.
No.
Yeah.
You get the player.
Moose was trying to tell us.
No, he gave it to us. This is kind of the best you get. There's no hot links. You just got to get there. So
well, I'm going to look because it has a better view on the phone. So, but that's fine.
Doesn't matter. So I can get there. Just tell me which matchup.
So big beefy Brutes versus Penn State is the first matchup. Yeah, right there. Best. That was it. You missed it.
I missed it.
It doesn't have their predicted points.
Yeah, that's the problem here. So, and it's not in live scoring unless we can skip up forward. Yeah, stuff. Oh, here we go. Nope, that's week 3 results.
We're still a work in progress, as always. Penn State Nittany Lions.
Oh, it's a schedule. It's in schedule. You can see it. Here we go. Okay, it just shows who is a dog.
Right.
Have I not set a lineup? Shame on me.
All right, so I have some information here. Big Beefy Brad is the underdog. I think this is an important matchup. Penn State can continue to show his dominance. I don't necessarily expect anything to change. Penn State gets Ayuk back this week, 70-point favorite almost. Big Beefy has had some good performances and is, I think, probably what's his efficiency ranking? Big Beefy is a pretty high efficiency rating. Like he's got 649 possible points, 626 total points. I think he's going to run into a juggernaut and get his butt whooped this week. But anything can happen. It's a game of the week because it's a 3-0 team versus a 2-1 team, and it's important for the playoff picture. Yeah. Any thoughts on that in general?
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. I mean, I think Beefy needs it more than Penn does, obviously. So if he can get the upset there, that's gonna really help his cause in that cluster up there, right? So
a couple of points too, just because I can see it on the app. So Penn has Cincinnati Bengals. It's nice that Joe Burrow was healthy last week and didn't sit out, so that's helped his cause. He also has Brandon Ayuk that was out last week. So that just a couple of key points there. And then Big Beefy, the Saints quarterback situation, probably going to get Jameis this week.
I found it, Corey, FYI.
Okay, cool. McKinnon had 2 touchdowns on like 3 touches last week. Kind of hard to continue with that.
There you go. Look at that. Look at that, Corey. You can look at the screen now. Look at that.
Awesome. There we go. Anyway, I'm predicting a big Penn State win. I think his firepower is heavier, and he's got more rounds in the clip, if you will. So Good luck, Big Brad.
Anybody with Rondé Stevenson and Amon St. Brown is going to be a real tough team to beat.
That's right. Yep, and a third round pick as well. Don't know what that was. Bad Boy versus Hometown Heroes is the next matchup. This is an interesting one as well. Hometown has had a couple of tough games to start the season. I just ended up defeating him last week in a very actually close matchup. Got a little too close for my liking late. Bad Boys, again, we talked about his team a little bit earlier. Just kind of go up a little bit for me.
No, I was just checking out what their projected points are. So it's 219 to 205. Pretty close matchup.
I mean, anytime you have the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback situation, I mean, I think Mahomes put up 30 points in about 3 quarters last week and was like, I mean, it could have got worse real quick. Bills have a kind of a showdown with Miami this week. I don't know. And I mean, the tough part for Hometown Heroes is he has 0 running backs. I mean, Keontae Ingram, and then beyond that it's rough for him. He's got a good defense. Wide receivers is explosive. Mooney gave him absolute dick last week. I think he got a 0. Marvin Mims has been as explosive. I think because Thomas has stayed healthy, Nico Collins is overperforming. Hawkinson's the best tight end in football. His defensive ends are elite. I think I'm going to give the advantage again to Bad Boys this week, but I think it's going to be a close one, and it'll depend a lot on those quarterbacks and how they perform. And then if Hometown Heroes continues to get production from his 3 big wide receivers, or if Mooney does anything this week. I mean, Hayden Hurst is also someone that's kind of, always there to get a touchdown or 2, especially I think if Dalton's under the QB spot. So I think his Hometown Heroes linebackers haven't exactly exploded yet either, if I'm right. So I don't know. A tough competitive matchup between 2 really good teams, both who I think are playoff bound. Obviously 3-0 and 2-1. So
what are your thoughts? Long had a weird little snap count thing, but they had a blowout situation. So I want to see some more. But he's still not. They're still not letting him really play 100% snaps. But he was still pretty productive. So, but something to watch out for.
Yeah. All right.
I think Alex Singleton, it doesn't show he's injured here, but I just read recently that he's probably not going to play, but it doesn't say. There's no designation, so maybe not.
You got a prediction?
I'm going to take Hometown.
All right. So you are calling that as an upset pick, even though it's a little bit closer in numbers. So I'm going to take Bad Boys on that one. You're taking Hometown so far. We both agreed on Penn beating Beefy, and we're split on Bad Boys and Hometown. The next matchup we have is Baltimore versus Mandy. I think this is the juicy one of the week because Baltimore's got a good team, explosive, got some people that can put up points that haven't already. Mandy, obviously, you've talked about the injuries, getting Saquon back. He can fucking drop 100 on you between his quarterback and his wide receiver group. I am going to go out. What's the possible points here?
Dude, they're projected 252 is Mandy and 182 is Baltimore.
I'm calling Baltimore BD's upset this week. I'm not sure exactly what I have to drive that. I don't think Saquon's going to be healthy. I don't think that he's going to come back and bring that much value to it. Perhaps a Tyreek Hill and Miami let down against Buffalo. That's going to kind of reduce some of the points that he's been getting from there. You never know, though. Mark Andrews could get 2 touchdowns. They don't have a running game, I don't think, in Baltimore. Gus Edwards is I don't even think he's going to play, or possibly might not play. Who actually is on Baltimore's team. I'm gonna call this the upset. I'm gonna call this the upset and go with Baltimore BDs.
A couple of things that could be a big flip for this. Devondre Campbell, like I said, I don't think he's expected to play. I mean, he might suit up by then, but he's not supposed to play, and he doesn't really have a backup linebacker to get much in there. And then over here on the bench, we have Nick Bolton. So if he ends up being able to play this week, that could give a big advantage. It could flip some of the points, right? So you're probably getting a 0 over here versus maybe, explosive linebacker coming. But in general, like, he's got a good defense with depth. Baltimore does, and he's just going to take some low points over here once in a while.
Awful running backs though. Who did he have an injury? He must have had an injury at running back.
I don't know if he did. I
It's on
think
his
it was
IR.
just his strategy. Look at Chris Brooks. He got some snaps last week.
Yeah, because they were up 70-20, but
fair enough. Still look good.
5th on the depth chart. Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't have a running back. I don't know what you do there, and his wide receivers don't compensate for it all that much, unless Wan'Dale Robinson and Shakur get going.
If this was an offense versus offense situation, this would be a bloodbath. But there's some defensive hope.
All right. Well, maybe I'm wishful thinking that Mandy goes down and he's in my division. I don't know. We'll see.
Juggernaut.
All right, my dude. That is all we have for today's show. It was a long one, but we owed you that because we missed last week. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, slight disclaimer here: nothing personal against anybody, just our own opinions. We are trying to put a little bit more into this. I hope you guys thought it was a little bit better this week as far as the analysis and kind of keeping it moving. We'll continue to strive to be better for you. So thanks for listening. Like, share, and go
subscribe. Smash that like button. All that stuff.
Don't send any information out to the Swifties for us. Appreciate that. Don't need that.
Or do it. Let's see what happens. I dare you, Swifties.
Oh, I don't want to get canceled, and I don't want to be considered a massage or what masculinist or whatever. I don't even know what the word is. A guy that judges women. Just trying to have some friendly banter here. That's all. We just don't think she's that super hot. That's all.
Whoa.
That's my opinions. All right, we're out. Talk to you later.